Hi everyone, welcome to my first official YouTube video. I do have 2 YouTube videos up on this channel right now. I really just posted those 2 videos because I was using YouTube as a way to just post my audio visuals, and now I want to venture more into just displaying more of my personality and create more content and to let my creativity flourish and expand. So today I'm super excited because I will be filming a Q&A. I asked of my Instagram followers if they could please send me some questions in order for me to answer. Since this is the first video, I do want to display just my background, how I got to where I am, and just some frequently asked questions. The first question that I got was, how did you get into writing? So this is my most frequently asked question. People constantly message me asking me how I got into writing, and or another one is, what inspires you to write? So I'll answer the first one. How I got into writing was, I don't know, I just feel like I've always had an appreciation for literature and using writing as a means to just express yourself and to think critically of the world and just to, just talk about the deeper meanings of life. And I just specifically remember when I was in, I don't know, I want to say, I wrote my first story, and this is in the 1st grade, and it was about a bean and a corn stalk and they went on a little adventure together, and it was the cutest thing. I think I just used notebook paper, like scrap paper, and I wrote a paragraph on each page, and I also drew the bean and the corn stalk, and they had faces and they were talking. So it was very child storybook, fairy tale-esque story. That is my earliest memory of writing and just really expressing myself. And from there, I've just always loved reading. I just remember always appreciating my story time. I have so many favorite stories from my childhood that my mom and dad and my aunts and my grandparents and my uncles have read to me. And I don't know, I just feel like that kind of sparked my love for literature. And I was a true bookworm, probably up until high school when, you're a teenager. I just always appreciated literature, and I was always reading. You cannot stop me from reading. I read throughout the summer. I read when I was still in school. I used to read during class. Don't do that. And yeah, I just always loved it. And what inspires me to write is just life itself. Life is so beautiful. Everything that comes with it, the joy, the pain, the sorrow, the feelings of being lost, the feeling of finding yourself, the feeling of having passion. So that is what really, truly inspires me to write. And I don't know if this is necessarily a selfish thing to say, but just my own personal experiences also inspire me. Just things that I go through in relationships, things that I go through in my own head. And it's just a way for me to write them down. And that's really, truly what I base my writing on and my poetry on. So I think I heard someone say once that please don't say you write for others, you should be writing for yourself. And that just is true. It resonates with me. So that's what inspires me to write. My next question is, how do you understand poetry more? I just think the best way to understand poetry more is to just keep reading it, and also to annotate the books that you're reading and make little notes and try to see what the poet is trying to do with the poem. Like maybe it's not just necessarily you trying to make sense of everything that's happening inside of the poem itself, but maybe the poet is, or the speaker of the poem is trying to elicit a certain feeling within you, or bring back a memory, or, you know, tap into certain emotions. So I think that's also important in poetry. Poetry is very emotional. So I think just reading, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like if you know someone who is, you know, who reads more poetry than you normally do, or someone else who's a writer, I think having discussions about poetry and kind of workshopping pieces and just getting your own ideas, because poetry is art and it is very subjective. So what you may get from a poem, someone else might get something different, and it's always nice to compare and contrast those points. And yeah, that's just my main thing. I mean, I read poems that sometimes I have no idea what's going on, and that's totally fine. I'm comfortable in kind of not knowing what's going on all the time. It's kind of intriguing, and it just makes me want to learn more and explore more authors and poets. Okay, another question I got is, would you say poetry comes from a personal experience, or is it a feeling? So I think poetry is both. Poetry does come from personal experience, but it also is just a feeling. And sometimes there's poetry within certain moments, like you could watch a dance and see how two people's bodies are moving in unison with one another, and that be poetry to you. Or sometimes it has to do with a relationship, like maybe you just are experiencing a deep connection with someone, or love for someone that you just never had, and those feelings and that personal experience lends to you creating poetry. So I think that's really kind of the inspiration behind poetry as well, and kind of how it manifests itself in our everyday lives. Like we are all just people who view and experience life and have relationships with people and have intense emotions and feelings and thoughts, and just all of that in itself is poetry. Okay, so I love this question because I'm going to make a longer video on it next time. And the question is, do you like reading for fun? And if so, do you recommend any books? So I think I mentioned earlier on that when I was younger, especially, I was a true bookworm, like reading books like there was nothing else to do, okay? Like my favorite were just like the teen fiction, sci-fi, vampire, mystical books. Like those were really my thing when I was younger. And now I'm kind of rediscovering my love for reading. When I was in college, I was a major of kinesiology and health, and my minor was creative writing. So I did take some literature courses and some writing courses, and that just kind of helped me rediscover my love for reading and my love for poetry and writing to short form, prose, fiction, things of that nature. And so now I am doing a reading challenge for this year. I'll talk more about that in the video. And books that I recommend at the moment is The Prophet. If you have not read that book, you need to. It's poetry, it's prose, and it just talks about life and the things that we go through in life. And it's just a great read, in my opinion. It's a quick read. And other books that I recommend, this is my poetry shelf right here. So I'm just gonna pull some from here. So another book that I really recommend, and another author is Yrsa Daley-Ward. She's amazing, and this memoir in specific was probably one of the books that I read in 2019 that just was quite different and really shaped what I understood poetry to be and what it meant to be lyrical. And this is just basically her memoir, and she is the author of Bone, which is what I have here, and it is a book of poetry. And she's just great. She's one of those short form poets that is great at having impactful, meaningful words and themes in a short amount of lines, which is truly a gift, and I don't know how people do it. So I really recommend her. And another book that I recommend, also from another woman, another Black woman, you know, is Heads of the Colored People. And this is by Nafisa Thompson Spires. I hope I said her name right. But this book is amazing. It is short stories, which I was never really into, but this really opened my mind to fiction short stories. So I'll just read the back. It just says, she grapples with race, identity, politics, and the contemporary middle class in this vivid, fast, funny way, smart and verbally inventive, which George Saunders said, who I've read. And this book is just amazing. It talks a lot about classism, racism, and how Black people navigate the world in which we live. And I will say 2019 was very exciting for me because I was really focusing on reading books from people of color, which I've never really done, and I learned so much from it. So these are just a few books that I recommend. And yeah, I'll go on to the next question. Okay. So the next question is, do your parents support your poetry dreams? And how do you cope with people that don't? So number one, my parents are literally the most kind, supportive people that I know. I was really scared to tell them because imagining going for college and then being like, yeah, I want to do poetry. And they were just really supportive, and they get mad or like disappointed if I don't tell them what's going on or what I'm doing. So they're truly the most kind, supportive parents, and I hope to be that for my kids someday. And how do I cope with people that don't? This is really kind of, I don't know the answer to this because I do encounter people in my everyday life, not necessarily friends or family members. Everyone who knows me personally has been super supportive, but I have met people who are just kind of like, that's not lucrative. What are you gonna do? Are you set for this starving artist lifestyle? And I think these questions are just, I think of them as the way of people projecting their own insecurities onto you. So I try not to listen to them, but they do get into my head sometimes, and they do cause doubt and worry. I'm not gonna lie. But I just try to think of the world in which we live today and how using platforms can help build your business and build your brand and just help you be financially secure and to put out the work that you want to put out. You don't have to go the traditional route necessarily of getting a literary agent or, you know, just doing those steps and it being super cutthroat. It's a very growing field at the moment, so that can kind of also put people off, but no one could ever be you. You are your own voice and your own experiences and your own style of writing is what separates you from those people. So to the people that don't understand or don't support me, I just try not to give them as much energy. It's easier for me because I don't have, like I said, my parents are super supportive, my family is supportive, my friends are supportive. Everyone is just so supportive. Like, I literally probably would not be doing this if it wasn't for their constant support. So yeah, that's just my take on that one. Okay, so this is another popular question that doesn't necessarily have to do with poetry and writing, but someone said drop the hair care / skincare regimen. My hair care regimen is literally horrible. I don't do anything. My advice for that is just stay away from heat, moisturize your hair, and maybe wash it like every 2 weeks. If your hair type can sustain that. For skincare though, I will be creating my skincare routine video. I know I have been saying this for months now, but now I feel like I have a plan figured out and I know where I want to do it and how I'm gonna film it. So if it's not by this month, it will be soon. But that was all the questions that I have today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please comment on what your favorite books are. Maybe we can start a book club. And then also please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Whoa, am I a YouTuber now? And just turn on your post notifications so you get notified when I upload my next video. So just stay tuned with me. I'm super excited for 2020 and what's to come. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at EKGWriting. It should be linked down below. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.